welcome back to the second episode of the Let's Talk Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Austin. Joined with me today is Connor, you guys know from last episode.
Hi, guys.
And today we have Brad, a new member on the podcast, but he is a writer over at Let's Talk Penguins.
How's it going?
So, just Brad, just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your hockey background, if you would.
All right, a little bit about me. I've been playing hockey since the third grade. I have been playing more than one team. I'm going to college up at Youngstown State next fall, where I intend to play club hockey. And I've been a Pens fan all my life. I've been born and raised in Pittsburgh. Bleed the black and gold, and I love everything Penguins hockey. And, yeah.
So this episode of the Let's Talk Penguins podcast is brought to you by Bird Clothing on Twitter. Make sure you go give them a follow. They make some awesome Pittsburgh-related t-shirts. They're made by people here in Pittsburgh for people in Pittsburgh. And they actually just released a Let's Talk Penguins t-shirt for us, so that's awesome. So make sure you go follow them, and I will link them in the description here. So we're just going to kick it off today with something super quick. It's kind of old news now, but we want to touch on it really quickly. We'll talk a little bit about the hit on Crosby by Niskanen and Ovechkin. So, Connor, if you want to jump into that real quick.
All right, so I'm actually glad it didn't have. I was actually fortunate enough again to be at the game. It looked really bad when it first happened, but you could have taken it two ways. He could have just been dazed from taking a pretty hard hit to the head. But I don't think it was as dirty as people were making it out to be, but I also don't think it was as innocent as people were making it to be, as, he just skated into him. I think Niskanen was trying to cross-check him in the back, he's coming to the net. However, the part that makes me think it was a little dirty was, the puck was nowhere near there. Crosby was skating, leaving the net. Niskanen's been this way all series, and he was this way with Crosby before he was on the Penguins. So that's he didn't mean to hit him in the head, I don't think. I think Ovi's kind of hacks were a little suspect, and especially his right foot taking out Crosby's leg. And what kind of added to that suspect feeling was him slew-footing Justin Schultz in that same game with about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
And no one really blew that up. You know why? Because just social media specifically, because no one has an agenda to hate Ovechkin as much of hockey Twitter has an agenda to hate the Penguins, as I've noticed. No one blew that up, but I'm sure if it was, a Penguins player and especially Crosby, it would be, talked about like crazy, but, it's not, so.
Yeah, and I also think it has to do with the player who it is. So you said it was Justin Schultz. If you replace Schultz with Crosby or Malkin, I think it becomes a different story.
Mm-hmm. It's just not, Schultz is one of our depth guys. Well, I say depth, but he's, progressed into a bigger role as the years gone on, but he's, not a household name.
Yeah. And about the Crosby hit, for me, yes, it's a dirty play, but is it intentional? I don't think so. Like you said, I think Niskanen is going to Crosby to cross-check him. Obviously, you can tell by that, but obviously not to the head. He's not looking directly at Crosby, so that makes me feel like it's not intentional. He's kind of just trying to battle for a position in front of the net after Crosby takes a shot, so...
well, honestly, if you ask me, I know it was a bad hit. People might, like Connor said, it didn't look as bad as it. It looked bad, but it wasn't as bad. But honestly, I thought Crosby probably could have played in Game 4. Let's be real,
yeah,
he was skating the next day.
Probably, yeah. But I think with his history and all that,
exactly, history in the heads. With the head and him, it was just like a safety thing.
Yeah, definitely.
He was skating the next day. He was probably okay. Maybe it was a mild concussion. He could have played, but with the history, he just had to take the chance and set him down.
You don't want to risk anything to make a play game that he doesn't have to. So let's talk quickly about Game 5, since you brought it up. Penguins won that game 3-2 without Crosby. That was a huge statement game, I think, because without having Crosby in the lineup, it showed how dominant the Penguins still are.
Yeah. Like, honestly, Washington is the team that only scares me. If we get past the Washington series, nobody can beat us, in my opinion. Like, if we played that game, it was a good game all around, but it's just a tough one to lose. Like, I hate seeing Washington win that game. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Game 5. So that was one that kind of got away from the Penguins. They were taking that lead into the third period and then end up giving up 3 goals in the third period. I don't think you can blame anybody specifically for those goals. Like, people tend to point fingers at Fleury. I mean, those are some good shots that you can't really blame him.
the team just has to play better all around. Honestly, like, there were a lot of mistakes when he made. A lot of offensive mistakes and a lot of defensive mistakes, but it still isn't like anybody's problem. Like, it could have been anybody. Like, Fleury's kept us in the playoffs, basically. So, like, there's no way you could blame Fleury for anything. And, like, I'm not the biggest Fleury fan. Like, there's times I don't like Fleury at all. Like, that's just me. Like, don't at me, but I don't like him. And it's just not how I like it. Like, there's nobody that can, like, do it.
Yeah, definitely. Fleury's the type of goalie that can make or break a series. Obviously, all playoffs he's been playing amazing, and then there's times that you're like, Fleury, like, what are you doing? So he definitely has had his ups and downs in the past, but I think right now, the way he's been playing, he's at his best right now.
It's he's at his best compared. I mean, obviously, he's played out of this world these playoffs, and I'll be the first to say it. I'm more of a Murray guy, but I can appreciate when a goalie's doing well. And he's really the only reason we're at this point. I think even if he doesn't play as well as he did in Columbus, we win that series, but maybe in 6 or 7-ish games. But it just on like the last game, not like a really obvious, not Fleury moment, but kind of like just from a goalie standpoint, not like, the best goals, in my opinion, were goals 1 and 2. The third one was a lucky bounce, and I feel like Fleury wants to have that one back, but you can't really fault him because it fell right to Kuznetsov. Mm-hmm. And the fourth one, Ovi just picked up a block shot right on his stick in the slot. Like, he's going to finish that.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about that one. Like, it's just right there.
It's nothing you can do about that. But more specifically, the first and second one, it just obviously I'm trying to use goalie talk, but keep it as comprehensible for the general fan as I can. 16 inches, which is a spot right above the pad, is statistically, as you can see on goalies, the hardest spot to stop. And it's harder if the puck is further out because you have to get, it's a far distance for your glove or blocker to move. But the closer it moves into your body, the easier it is to stop. So that's just why I wasn't crazy about the first 2 goals he let in, because it almost seemed like he was behind the puck. He was slow reacting to it, and they kind of went through him rather than, picking a corner up and around him, which is,
You can't expect them to make every save. Like, there's bound to be a time where he's gonna let it go in. Like, nobody's perfect, and like, that's just how it goes. That's life. Like, nothing's perfect, and you're just gonna have those days.
Definitely, especially against a team like the Capitals to have such great scorers like Kuznetsov, like Ovechkin, like Oshie. So you were kind of expecting the Capitals to have a good breakout game, which it was for them. But even though the Penguins came away with that game with a loss, I still think there's a lot of positives to take out of that game. I think the power play was really good. It was nice to see Crosby back on it and kind of take control of that power play. They ended up being 1 for 2. Phil Kessler got the power play goal, so that was nice to see him get on the board. But overall, on that game, like I said, we played really strong the entire game, but maybe 2 to 5 minutes in the third period, it kind of fell apart for a little bit, and the Capitals took advantage.
Mm-hmm. And Hopi finally looked like he should have looked these entire playoffs. And he still wasn't, that crazy, like, as Caps fans made it seem like he saved the game, saved the series, and the NBC announcers acted like he, was like the next best thing since sliced bread. And he had a great performance, but it wasn't making nut saves like Fleury was in a few of game 1 and 2. It was just he made the saves when he had to, and which he hasn't done this series. Like even early on, I believe it was Crosby's tip. You just saw, if that takes, if that was kind of sitting behind him, and if Hornquist, buries the puck instead of putting it in the corner, the game could have gone much differently than how it did.
Yeah, you mentioned Holtby not performing well. Even in that game, I don't think was his strongest game, but definitely one that he needed. Going into the third period, the shots for the Penguins, we only had 10 shots. So you think 2 goals on 10 shots, that's not what Holtby is wishing to happen. He comes out and stops all 12 of the next shots for the Penguins, and they finish with 22 shots on goals. And the Capitals finished with a total of 32 shots on goal. So we were outshot, but I don't think we were outplayed in that game.
Mm-hmm. Just the third period more, it just kind of had that feeling of, something was bound to happen. Like if we were going to win, we were going to barely scrape away with it, just, based off the plays that were happening. And it wasn't, like the feel of game 6 of the Cup Finals. Like just watching that, I don't know how I had no nerves the entire third period.
Yeah.
It's just, just the way they were playing, you could tell they were going to lock it down unless some fluke goal went in. And, I didn't have that feeling while watching this, particular third period because, the Caps are pouring it on. They have the fans behind them. It's only one goal. It's, as we saw, it only took, one shot from Backstrom and then, another lucky bounce. And everything else just kind of putting together just kind of led to an eventual downfall. But, giving yourself 10 shots after 2 periods isn't really the best way to win a hockey game. So.
Yeah, I don't think like I said, I don't think we were outplayed at all. I think there was just an extra level of desperation maybe from the Capitals. Like, this is it. We're at home. We got the crowd behind us. Like, we need to pull out this win. And you saw as soon as they scored that first goal in the third period, the Verizon Center blew up. It was, like, so loud. The fans were going crazy. So it was only a matter of time before, the Capitals kind of poured it on.
Well, you make that point, like, the desperation is there and the crowd's behind them and they need to win that game. The Penguins that has to be the Penguins literally next game. You do not want to go to game 7 back into Washington, back into their territory with a tied series after being up 3-1.
Yeah, I agree.
After last game, like, I feel like the Capitals showed the Penguins they want to play, like, obviously when they want to play, but they want to play, like, they're out there, like, they want to beat the Penguins bad. So I feel like the Penguins have to have the intensity there, and the crowd needs to be loud, and they need to end it.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to go back to a game 7 in Washington. We know how loud and crazy that arena gets, and like I said before, it's a level of desperation by the Capitals. You saw that Ovechkin was put on the third line with Tom Wilson, so that's kind of a sense of Barry Trotz saying, hey, we need to step up. This is our game to win.
Well, bringing that up, do you think he's going to be on the third line next game since the success of last game with him playing on the third line? Or do you think the lines get changed again?
He didn't stay on the third line the whole game, did he? Because I remember the announcer saying Burakovsky scored because he went back on the third line where he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I know the lines were mixed up a bunch for them. I don't think he'd stay on that third line. I would hope not. As a Capitals fan, I would hope he wouldn't. You saw how dominant they were all season long with that Oshie Backstrom Ovechkin unit. So go with what you know works. So hopefully to see him back up on that top line, it makes the most sense. But you never know with Barry Trotz. So Penguins come back on Monday night here in Pittsburgh for Game 6. Pretty healthy lineup. We got Sheary and Crosby back. That's important to note that Sheary came back with Crosby for Game 5. He also was down with a concussion, which is good to see. So how do you guys think Game 6 is going to end up?
I'm hoping similar to last year. I'm hoping similar because again, I always say fortunate enough, but I was also at that game. But that was actually like the first real playoff OT win I saw live because before this, I was too young in '09 to actually know what was happening. And the other we didn't really have any other lengthy playoff runs besides the one where we went to the conference finals and the Bruins just made us look like a mite hockey team. So, I mean, I wasn't really, aware of how hard it was to get to that situation because growing up, I was just, I grew up in the time that we were doing really well. So I wasn't used to like not going far in the playoffs. And, I finally was able to appreciate like what we were doing. But that game was interesting because we went up 3-0. They came back 3-3 and OT. But I'm thinking we'll win, but I'm thinking it'll be more of a shootout. It's either, in my opinion, it's going to be like 5-4, 4-3, or 2-1, 3-1, something on the low end.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be a blowout on either end. I do think the Penguins are going to pull this one out because they basically have to. Like, I want to see the Penguins go win another cup. Everybody else wants to see the Penguins win another cup, and they would know that they want to win another cup. So they're going to come out flying. And so are the Capitals. It's gonna be a tough game for both teams, but I think the Penguins are gonna pull it out. Like Connor said, like 2-1, 3-2. Like it's gonna be something like that. Like it's not gonna be It's gonna be a goaltender's game. Like I feel like there's gonna be a lot of good saves and there's gonna be a lot of good goals. Like that's just how it's gonna be. Like there will be like I don't know where I'm going with this, but like we're going to pull it out. I feel like the intensity is going to be there, and they're just going to play like Mike Sullivan says.
Yeah, definitely. I think the city is definitely behind the Penguins. They have a lot of confidence in this team. I think for sure it's going to be a close checking game. Guys like Chris Kunitz and Hornquist are going to be involved a lot on our side. And then players like Tom Wilson, TJ Oshie, guys like that, definitely going to have a huge impact on this game. I completely agree with you guys. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. Obviously, you'd like to see the Penguins come out with a victory. I think they will. I think they play really well at home, especially with the crowd behind them and everything. I'd like to see a nice 3-1 victory, maybe 2-1 and an empty net at the end. That'd give me my prediction. So we're gonna end it up here with just look at the other series real quick around the league. So in the West today, the Nashville Predators took care of the Blues with a 3-1 victory. So they are moving on to the Western Conference Final for the first time in their franchise history, which is pretty awesome to see. I don't know if you guys have any opinions about that game, if you guys saw it or anything.
I saw some of it.
I wasn't able to see it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I saw some of it, not all of it, but just kind of looking at, Steen played with a broken foot. There's that. I mean,
oh really? I didn't even know that.
He played with a broken foot, and I believe Cullen played with something similar last year. And I think what the guys do is they actually physically inject painkillers into their foot, which does not sound fun if you ask me. But I mean, Steen's getting paid what, $4 or $5 million a year to play. Like I think he's gonna, give his team the best chance to win. But it just, I think the Blues, if they would have won that game, they would have been staving off the inevitable. Because I mean, you put the Blues up against, the Ducks or the Oilers. I think that's a quick series. You never know, but I just think the Predators would eventually, and they did overpower them just because, Jake Allen wasn't, making 52 saves a game like he was in the series before. He kind of came back down to earth as, the good Jake Allen we know, but not the, 52 saves a game. Pekka Rinne has been playing really well, but I also think that's partially because, the team in front of him just, because I know like the game could have been completely different. I remember watching St. Louis just miss a wide open net, and Rinne had no chance to getting over there. If that goes in, that game's 2-2 at that point instead of 2-1. So obviously it's a game of bounces because I believe it hit off someone's stick and skyrocketed up into the seats. So
yeah, I like Nashville a lot. I like the chances. I think they can go to the finals for sure. They have a really well built team, starting with the goalie, and then the defense is just you know how good they are. I don't know. I like Nashville a lot. They run this neutral zone trap a lot, and that proved problems for the Blackhawks, and then they were running it really well again today against the Blues. So they had a lot of odd-man chances, which were a result of that trap zone they play. So it'll be interesting to see who they play. The other Western Series could end tonight. We don't know. Anaheim is up 3-2 in that series. Hopefully the Oilers can force a Game 7. That's an Oilers fan talking right there. So if you guys want to talk about that series a little bit, maybe last game for a little bit.
I like the Oilers. I mean, I'm not like I'm a fan of McDavid, but like I'm not a fan if that makes sense. Like I don't like all the hype around him. Like when he got drafted, I was like, all right, maybe Eichel will go over him, just like blow it out of the water and all that. But like no, but like you got to give it to him. He's the second best player in the world. You have to give it to him. Like he's right behind Crosby. Like, but I like Edmonton. Like I want them to win. Like it's Edmonton. They went from like they had the first round pick 2 years ago. Like that's just like Toronto making the playoffs this year. Like that's crazy. Like, that never happens. And well, it eventually did. But like if I like Edmonton, like they're a good team. They're a young team. I like Jesse Puljujarvi. He's a great player. Like I think they can make it to the finals. But on the other hand, Anaheim, that's a solid team. Just like they proved last game with Corey Perry scoring in overtime, the 3 goals or whatever, in the last minute or whatever it was. John Gibson's a good goalie. He actually went to my high school. It was cut from the high school team.
That's crazy.
But the story behind that, I'll get into it later. I wouldn't say he's cut. He was given a JV spot, but he didn't want to play JV, so that's what happened. But yeah, I like Edmonton. I could go either way. Like it's the West. I want the Penguins to win, so like that's just how it goes. If it was like if Chicago was still in it, I'd have to go Chicago. My boy Patty Kane. But if I want anybody to go the cup from the West, it has to be Edmonton.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot around social media and stuff that it's kind of hard to root against the Oilers. You know, they've been bad for so long. Finally make the playoffs in 10 years, and then you have a kid like Connor McDavid leading the way. So it's kind of, you know, it's a feel-good story. You want to root for them.
As I can see here, I'm kind of in the minority as who I'm rooting for here. Actually, countering Brad's John Gibson story, I actually grew up near John Gibson when I was a lot younger. I moved away when I was 5, so I didn't really get to know him too well. But we ended up, you know, going to some of the same goalie schools, working at some of the same goalie schools, and so cool stuff. So that's kind of why I like the Ducks. You know, I liked them the second he got drafted there, and I'm not saying I am the next John Gibson, but I actually had a similar situation this year where from my high school team. Little tidbit, I got put on JV after being the starter as a sophomore on varsity the year before.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. And I'm not. And then also my team, you know, had a great regular season, went to the playoffs with the worst goalie tandem in the league, and got eliminated in the first game. But that's none of my business. But just similar tidbit there. But there's a lot of guys I mentioned. I think I mentioned last podcast. I don't know, like David Perron. He didn't play above single A his entire career up until he got caught by some random junior team, and now he's in the NHL. So it's like some guys have interesting, you know, paths coming up.
That's crazy. Like Connor Shear, he was an undrafted free agent, and now he's playing alongside Sidney Crosby, and he's that elite winger that they wanted to get for him. Air quotes around elite winger. Like it's crazy.
Early this season, I posted an article on Let's Talk Pens on Twitter. And I kind of looked into like a lot of the depth that the Penguins have, and a lot of them were undrafted free agents or college athletes that are coming out from the NCAA. So you're starting to see a lot more people come out of the NCAA rather than going up Canada and playing juniors. So it's kind of interesting to see. I think there was 17 or 18 guys on the Penguins that played this season that were part of NCAA hockey. So it's kind of cool to see for us Americans that, you know, NCAA is producing.
Mm-hmm. And it's also like another story with someone that wasn't supposed to come anywhere. Jake Gensel, obviously he was a 3rd-round pick, so, you know, we knew he was good, but, you know, and he branched out in college with, I believe, was Utah. Yeah, Utah. Right now, yeah, one of the, I don't know. Don't quote me on it. Don't quote me on that. I know. Nebraska, no, Omaha. That's what's Omaha, Utah. I know the goalie for Omaha, so I should know that. But I remember someone saying before he went to college, he was on like the high school JV team, and it did not look like he was going to go anywhere with his hockey career. And some people, I hear the term late bloomers used often, and a lot of people that use the term late bloomers are people that aren't on good teams when they're 17 or 18 and are just trying to make an excuse, oh, I'm a late bloomer. And a lot of stuff, not trying to, bank on them, but that's what the term is used for a lot of times. Yeah. So that's why it's, lost its grasp. But, you'll hear about a lot of that where, players will just come up out of nowhere and suddenly have an impact that, didn't think. And, it could be coaching and such, like Matt Murray, again, a third-round pick, but he, Jerry was viewed as, the future of our franchise. And then in the AHL, Matt Murray tears it up in the AHL, and people are like, all right, let's take a look at this kid. And, eventually he wins a cup his rookie year, and he's, 95% the future of the Penguins, unless some GMJR does something crazy, which we've seen him done in the past, and most times it's worked out. But I'm assuming for said future, he's going to be our goalie.
Last series we're going to talk about real quick, Ottawa and the Rangers. Ottawa's up in that series 3-2. They won the last game 5-4 in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't get to catch any of that.
Yeah, that was correct. I was able to watch the game.
So, yeah, if you guys want to give a little bit of input on that series.
It was all around a great game. They were off to a slow start. I believe they were down 2-0 in the first period, and they were able to come back and score a big goal, take it 2-1 in the first intermission. And then, I want to say, I don't know if they got a goal in the second, if anybody got a goal in the second. Well, no, it might have been 3-2 going into the third. I don't remember. I watched the Penguin game the other night. Like, I don't care. Like, honestly, like, it's all Penguins for me. But Kyle Turris in overtime, like, honestly, that's all, like, why you don't stop playing hockey. Like, just the whole thing. Like, especially the Penguins comeback, like, and taking it to overtime when Shattenkirk scored. Like, you don't stop playing. Like, if there's a goal, like, if you're down, you don't stop. Like, you want that goal. Like, honestly, like, I can't stress enough about how you want to keep playing to get that goal. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. We saw it in our series where we scored 2 goals late to send that game to overtime. And then you saw it just the other night in the Ducks and Oilers series where the Ducks scored 3 goals in 3 minutes and ended up winning that game in double overtime. So definitely late goals and overtime has definitely been a theme of this playoffs. It's been a lot of that. For me, I like to see Ottawa advance. I'm all about seeing different teams. So I think that I like our chances better against Ottawa. I'm not saying that I don't like us against the Rangers, but I think we could pick that team apart, especially with Erik Karlsson, who seems to be playing at 80% maybe. He has a fractured foot.
He's still playing good hockey though. Like, I have so much respect for players like playing through injury and all that. Like, I wouldn't do that. I'm going to be honest. Like, I just wouldn't.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but like, it's just crazy.
It takes a different type of person to play through a broken foot.
I honestly, like, I'm not afraid of the Rangers or the Ottawa Senators. Like, I think we can take them. Honestly, I'd rather play Ottawa more. If you remember what King Henrik did to us a couple of years ago in the playoffs in the first round, and just went downhill from there. I was at one of those games and just wasn't good. But I like playing Ottawa. I think we can pull that one out and make it to the playoffs. No, not playoffs. Stanley Cup Finals. And it's good for Ottawa. I like seeing Ottawa win some games. Like, I love when like teams come back and make it to the playoffs. Like, I don't want to like basketball. Like, you see the Cavs and the Warriors go to the finals every year. Like, that's just not fun to me. I like seeing new teams in it, but obviously I want to see the Penguins win the cup again.
Yeah, definitely. That's like something I was saying earlier. It's kind of hard not to root for the underdog. You like to see new teams. You like to see the sport advance in different places. So seeing a team like Ottawa get far is great to see. Yeah, definitely to see them go somewhere, even though they're fans, stop showing up to that one game to slip the series off. They didn't even have a sell-out for the playoffs.
That's not good. It's not good.
Connor, you got anything to add on the Ottawa Rangers series?
I hope the Sens win. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the Rangers, but I think Craig Anderson's a little suspect in that. Obviously that game we saw in the game before we saw him collapse and not get. And get pulled. This time he didn't get pulled and they end up coming back. But I'd rather play the Senators again just because I feel like we'd have a better chance at beating them, but I still feel like we have a good chance at beating the Rangers. And I feel like it could be a completely different series look because obviously, the Rangers weren't even up to the Blue Jackets caliber and neither were the Senators. So I feel like it could be kind of that, 2009 scenario where I'm not saying we'll sweep them if we make it, but we sweep the Hurricanes. Like the Hurricanes should not have been in the conference finals and they still were.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Penguins are looking like the dominant team from the East, no matter if you play Ottawa or the Rangers. I think a lot of people have confidence in the Penguins making it to the finals, but they're not saying that it's going to be an easy run. It's just saying that the way it's looking right now, the Penguins are clearly more dominant. As well, like in the East, or in the West, I'm sorry, if no one really knows, like a lot of people like Nashville, but if they get put up against a team like the Big Ducks, they go to outbody them. You never know what's going to happen there. Or if they go against the speedy Oilers, is Connor McDavid going to carry that series? So the West is kind of more up in the air, but I feel like a lot of people are liking the Penguins out of the East.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus: is Penguins or Caps. Whoever comes out of that series is going to be going to the finals.
Yeah, that's something that we've heard all playoffs to start. Alright, so that is going to conclude episode number 2 of the Let's Talk Penguins podcast. Make sure to go give a follow to Let's Talk Penguins on Twitter at Let's Talk Penguins, and be sure to follow Bird Clothing on Twitter. The link will be in the description of this video, and make sure you go check them out.